The stars looked different from Proxima Station. John Miller often thought about that as he stared out the viewport in his quarters. After 10 years as Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Conclave, he still couldn't get used to seeing unfamiliar constellations. The station orbited a world 22 light-years from Earth, serving as the neutral meeting ground for the 17 species that made up the conclave. John rubbed his tired eyes. Today was the day. After months of planning and years of frustration, humanity would finally take a stand. "Are you ready?" Susan Baker asked from the doorway. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she carried her ever-present data tablet. As humanity's chief strategist, Susan had spent years gathering evidence of the conclave's unfair treatment. "As ready as I'll ever be," John replied, adjusting his formal diplomatic uniform. The blue and gold colors of United Earth stood out, among the more exotic clothing styles of the alien representatives. "Are Alan and Lisa prepared?" Susan nodded. "Alan finished the economic impact report this morning. Lisa has our security teams on standby just in case things get ugly." "They won't get violent," John said. "The conclave prides itself too much on being civilized. They'll be shocked, maybe angry, but not violent." "I hope you're right." Susan checked her watch. "The assembly begins in 30 minutes. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Conclave was a marvel of alien architecture. A huge dome of transparent material, stronger than steel but clear as diamond, revealed the stars above. Curved rows of seating accommodated the vastly different body types of the member species. The Zalari needed wide, shallow pools filled with salt water. The Moor floated as glowing balls of gas. The reptilian Drac required heating elements in their seats. The insectoid Vrex stood on raised platforms, their 6 legs constantly shifting position. Humans, with their simple chairs, seemed almost boring by comparison. As the Earth delegation entered the chamber, John felt the familiar mix of awe and frustration. The conclave represented the most advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. Their combined knowledge had helped humanity leap forward in medicine, energy production, and space travel. But that help always came with strings attached, with limits with a clear message. "You are not our equals." John took his place at the speaking platform when Earth's turn came in the agenda. Behind him stood his team, Susan Baker with her tablet of evidence, Alan White, the economic advisor whose gray hair and calm demeanor hid a sharp mind, and Lisa Green, the military liaison whose stiff posture reflected her 20 years in Earth's space forces. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Conclave," John began, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. "Earth, thanks you for this opportunity to address the full assembly." The formal greeting complete, John took a deep breath. His next words would change humanity's future forever. 10 years ago, humanity was welcomed into the conclave. "We were honored to join your community of advanced species. We were eager to learn, to contribute, to become part of something greater than ourselves." Many of the alien representatives nodded or made their species equivalent gestures of agreement. The Moor pulsed with soft blue light indicating approval. "In those 10 years," John continued, "humans have established colonies on 7 worlds. We have shared our unique music, art, and literature. We have contributed new perspectives to scientific research. We have participated in conclave peacekeeping missions. We have followed every regulation, respected every custom, and honored every treaty." The chamber remained attentive. Nothing John had said so far was controversial. Yet for 10 years, we have also faced restrictions that no other conclave member endures. John's voice grew stronger. "For 10 years, we've requested equal trading rights. For 10 years, we've been denied access to Class 2 technology. For 10 years, we've watched our colonies be restricted while others expand freely." Now the mood in the chamber shifted. The Vrex representatives began clicking their mandibles together, a sign of disagreement. The reptilian Drac representatives exchanged glances. The Zalari representative, Ambassador Kazit, made a dismissive gesture with his upper appendages. His bluish skin glistened with moisture as he rose from his shallow pool. "Humans are simply too unpredictable," Kazit said, his translator converting his gurgling speech into standard conclave language. Your species advanced from primitive flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. The safety protocols exist for good reason. Susan Baker stepped forward, her face calm but determined. She touched her tablet, and data appeared on the large display screens around the chamber. These charts show technological development rates for all conclave species, she explained. Humans are only the 3rd fastest to develop space travel. The Vega Collective and the Tellurians both progressed more rapidly than humanity. She swiped to a new display. Yet 3 species who joined after us now have Class 2 technology access. The Conclave granted the Boros full access just last year, despite their joining 2 years after Earth. Susan looked directly at Kazit. The evidence suggests discrimination, not caution. The Grand Assembly chamber fell silent. The floating orbs of the Moor delegates pulsed with rapid color changes showing agitation. The Vrex clicked their mandibles nervously. Even the normally stoic Drac showed signs of discomfort, their tail spines rising slightly. John stepped forward again. We did not come here today to merely complain. We came with a simple message from the United Earth government. He paused, making eye contact with as many of the alien representatives as possible. Either the Conclave grants humans equal member status with all associated rights within 1 standard cycle, or Earth and all human colonies will withdraw from the Conclave entirely. The words hung in the air for 3 heartbeats. Then chaos erupted. The Moor's translation units couldn't keep up with their rapid color changes. The Vrex rose up on their hind legs, a posture of alarm. The reptilian Drac representatives hissed, loudly, their universal translators converting the sounds to words of protest. Impossible. No precedent. They cannot be serious. Only Ambassador Kasizit remained composed. The Zalari were known for their emotional control, a necessity for a species that communicated partly through subtle skin color changes. You wouldn't dare, Kaza said, his voice eerily calm. No species has ever withdrawn from the Conclave. The economic impact alone would devastate your worlds. Your colonies would collapse without Conclave support. Your security would be compromised. Pirate species would target isolated human settlements. Lisa Green stepped forward now, her military uniform crisp and imposing. At 45, she had the bearing of someone used to command. Her short blonde hair and stern expression added to her authoritative presence. We've run the simulations, she said, her voice clear and confident. We'll survive. Our military can protect our colonies. Our economy can adapt. The question is... She looked around the chamber slowly. Will the Conclave's fragile power balance survive without us? That's the real question. The High Administrator, a tall Drac named Sizvek, raised his scaled hand for order. This is most irregular. Such ultimatums are not how the Conclave conducts its business. We operate by consensus, by careful deliberation. You've had 10 years to deliberate, John replied. Our patience has reached its limit. 1 standard cycle to grant equal status. After that, humanity walks away. As the human delegation prepared to exit the chamber, Alan White stepped to the front. The oldest member of the team at 62, his calm voice somehow cut through the noise of the agitated aliens. 1 standard cycle, he said simply. The clock is ticking. The human team left the chamber in perfect formation, ignoring the calls for them to return, to explain further, to reconsider. As the doors closed behind them, none of the aliens noticed the small smile on John's face. Phase 1 of the plan was complete. Now they would see if the Conclave called their bluff, or if humanity would truly have to go it alone among the stars. Back in the secure Earth quarters, Susan let out a long breath. Well, we've done it now. Lisa nodded. No turning back. Did you see their faces? Alan asked. Or whatever passes for faces among the Moor. They never expected this. John looked out at the unfamiliar stars again. They've never understood humans. That's been their mistake all along. The 4 of them stood in silence, contemplating the enormity of what they had just done. In 1 standard cycle, about 70 Earth days, humanity would either gain its rightful place among the stars or strike out on its own. and the galaxy would never be the same again. The blue marble of Earth looked peaceful from space, but on the surface activity buzzed like a disturbed beehive. In the massive shipyards orbiting Earth, welding torches sparked day and night. Construction drones moved in perfect patterns around half-finished ships. These vessels were built with a clever design that hid their true purpose. They could serve as trading ships in peace or transform into weapon platforms if needed. President Olivia Reed watched the construction from the viewport of her orbital office. At 58, she had the first gray strands in her dark hair and lines around her eyes from years of difficult decisions. This was the biggest gamble of her career, and humanity's future hung in the balance. "Madam President, the Admiral is here," her assistant announced. Admiral Gary Scott entered the office with quick, precise steps. His Navy uniform bore the insignia of Earth Fleet Command. At 60, his hair was fully gray, but his body remained fit and his mind sharp. "The preparations are proceeding on schedule," he reported. "The new Defender-class ships will be ready before the deadline." President Reed nodded. "And if the conclave calls our bluff, then we'll be ready." The Admiral's face showed no doubt. "We've been preparing for months." On the lunar military base Armstrong, officers gathered around a large holographic display showing human territory, Earth, Mars, and the 7 colony worlds spread across nearby star systems. Admiral Scott pointed to the display. "If the conclave decides to pressure us militarily, these are our vulnerable points. Colonel Doug Peters, your Mars Defense Force, will secure the inner system." Colonel Peters, a tall man with a serious face, nodded. "My teams are running combat drills daily. We'll be ready." "Commander Nancy Wright," the Admiral continued, "your deep space patrols will extend to the edge of our territory. We need early warning if conclave ships approach our colonies." Commander Wright, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 30s, studied the display. "The new stealth systems are operational on all patrol ships. We can monitor conclave movements without detection. They won't see us coming or going. Remember," Admiral Scott emphasized, "we don't want to fight. But if one comes, we need to show strength immediately. The conclave needs to understand that leaving doesn't mean we're weak." Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Reed met with her cabinet in the underground Situation Room. The room's walls were lined with screens showing data from across human space. Her economic advisor, Kevin Brown, looked worried as he presented the latest projections. A balding man in his 40s, he nervously adjusted his glasses before speaking. "Madam President, even with our stockpiling efforts, certain rare elements will become critical within 8 months if the conclave cuts us off completely." He displayed charts showing resources unique to certain alien worlds. "These elements are essential for our advanced medical equipment and faster-than-light drives," Secretary of State Paul Davis interjected. A tall black man with a confident voice, he had helped plan the withdrawal strategy with John Miller's team. "The independent trading worlds have agreed to serve as intermediaries. The conclave's regulations can't stop them from dealing with us." Kerr showed a map of neutral systems located between human space and conclave territory. "These traders care more about profit than politics. They'll sell to anyone who can pay." "And how will we pay if the conclave freezes our credits?" asked Defense Secretary Maria Wilson. "We've been quietly converting our reserves to universal trade units for months," Kevin explained. "And we've stockpiled valuable Earth goods that are in high demand: medical supplies, entertainment data, and luxury foods." President Reed studied the Global Readiness Report on her screen. "What about our allies within the conclave? Will they help us?" "The Tellurians and Vega Collective have privately expressed support," Paul answered. "They've faced similar discrimination. If we succeed, they may follow our lead." "And if we fail?" Secretary Wilson asked the question everyone was thinking. "President." Reed's face remained calm, but her voice grew serious. "If we fail, we will have revealed our weakness to the galaxy. We must not fail." Across human space, citizens prepared for uncertain times. The government hadn't announced the ultimatum publicly, but rumors spread. People sensed something big was coming. Victory gardens appeared in cities with families growing their own food. Energy conservation measures went into effect. Communities held meetings to discuss local self-sufficiency. But there was no panic. Instead, a quiet determination spread. Humans had faced challenges before. They would face this one together. In Chicago, in a university laboratory hidden underground, Dr. Frank Howard worked late into the night. A thin man with thick glasses and nervous energy, he hunched over a device the size of a small refrigerator. Wires and tubes connected it to various instruments around the lab. This quantum communication array was specifically forbidden by conclave regulations. The conclave claimed it was for safety reasons, but humans suspected the real reason. The device made it impossible for the conclave to monitor communications. Dr. Howard had hidden his research as a theoretical physics study, but the device on his workbench was very real and working. He carefully adjusted the final connections and initiated the power-up sequence. The machine hummed softly. On a nearby screen, data began to flow. "Hello? Is anyone receiving?" He spoke into the microphone. After a brief delay, a voice responded from the speaker. "Receiving you clearly, Chicago. This is New Washington Colony on Alpha Centauri. Quantum link established." Dr. Howard pumped his fist in victory. Light years apart, but communication as clear as a local call and completely impossible for the conclave to detect or block. "Let's hope we don't need you," he murmured to the device as he recorded the successful test results. "But if we do, you'll change everything." On Proxima Station, Susan Baker moved carefully through the public areas. She had arranged this meeting through 3 different intermediaries to ensure secrecy. The garden dome was designed to provide comfort to various species. Susan sat on a bench near a pool of silver-blue water, pretending to read her tablet. One by one, 3 figures approached and sat nearby, each from a different species. The Tellurian representative had 4 eyes that blinked in sequence and skin that shifted between green and brown. The Vega delegate looked almost human except for the ridge of small spines running from forehead to neck. The Eridani resembled a tall, thin praying mantis with translucent wings folded against its back. Their conversation was carefully coded, hidden beneath talk about art and music. But the message Susan delivered was clear. Watch closely and be ready to choose sides. "The gallery opening will be quite dramatic," she said casually. "Something no one has seen before. If the critics respond well, other artists might follow the same style," the Tellurian replied, all 4 eyes blinking meaningfully. "Indeed," the Vega delegate added. "Sometimes a bold new approach changes everyone's perspective." The Eridani's translator conveyed its clicking speech. "We will watch with great interest. Perhaps we have similar ideas to exhibit soon." After they departed, Susan sent an encrypted message to John Miller. "Seeds planted. Potential harvest good." In deep space, far from regular shipping lanes, a fleet of human ships gathered. Hidden by the dust clouds of a nebula, they waited. These ships showed no external weapons, but inside they carried enough firepower to defend a planet. Captain Roy Bennett looked at the tactical display on his bridge. 20 ships under his command, with more joining every day. These weren't Earth's newest vessels. Those remained visible, going about regular business. These older ships had officially been decommissioned months ago. "Status report?" he asked his first officer. "All ships at ready status, Captain. Weapon systems disguised, but operational. Long-range sensors clear." Captain Bennett nodded. "Very good. Remember, everyone, we are the insurance policy. If things go badly at the conclave, we'll be needed. If things go well, no one will ever know we were here." His crew understood the importance of their mission. They worked quietly, efficiently, prepared for whatever might come. As the deadline approached, human military vessels positioned themselves near colony worlds, disguised as regular patrol ships. Civilian vessels continued normal operations, but their captains received sealed orders to be opened only if certain code words were transmitted. The conclave monitored these movements with growing concern. Their intelligence services noted unusual patterns but couldn't determine the exact purpose. Something was happening. But what? In his quarters on Proxima Station, John Miller received the final status report. Humanity was as ready as it could be. Now they would see if the Conclave believed their threat, or if humans would truly have to walk away from galactic society and make their own path among the stars. The final day arrived. On Proxima Station, the Grand Assembly Chamber looked more crowded than usual. Word had spread about the human ultimatum, and representatives from every Conclave species wanted to witness what would happen. Even species that rarely attended full sessions sent observers. The aquatic morel floated in special water tanks. The crystalline Kulari sparkled under the chamber lights. The normally reclusive Zen, with their long, thin bodies and multiple eye stalks, hovered at the back of the room. John Miller and his team prepared in their quarters. The past 70 days had been filled with meetings, threats, offers, and desperate attempts by various Conclave officials to change their minds. "Are we really doing this?" Alan White asked, as he straightened his formal jacket. Despite helping plan everything, the reality of the moment weighed on him. "We are," John confirmed. The Conclave had their chance. They chose not to take it seriously. Lisa Green checked her communication device. "All defensive positions report ready. Earth fleet is on standby. Colony worlds are secure." Susan Baker added, "Our allies are in position. The Tellurians have moved their ships to the border of their territory. They're ready to announce right after we do." John nodded. "Then it's time." The human delegation entered the chamber to a tense silence. The Conclave's High Administrator, Sesvek, waited at the central platform. The tall Drax scales shimmered with a greenish tint that indicated stress. "The Conclave has convened this emergency session to address the human petition," Sesvek announced formally. "After much deliberation, we have prepared a response." John and his team took their designated places. They remained standing, a small sign of defiance against Conclave protocol. Sesvek gestured to an aide, who distributed data tablets to the human delegation. "The Conclave has prepared a proposal for gradually expanding human access to technologies and rights over the next 20 standard cycles. Phase 1 would begin immediately with—" John didn't even glance at the document. He handed it back to the aide. "That wasn't our request. Our terms were clear. Equal status now, not promises for the future." Sisovek's scales rippled with irritation. "You cannot simply demand—" "We're not demanding," John interrupted. The room grew completely silent. Interrupting the High Administrator violated centuries of Conclave protocol. "We're leaving." He activated his communication device. On every screen in the chamber, the same message appeared, translating automatically into each species' language. All human diplomatic personnel were being recalled effective immediately. Human merchant vessels were returning to human space. All Conclave citizens had 48 hours to leave human territory. Ambassador Kuzet rose from his shallow pool, water dripping from his blue-tinged skin. "This is madness. No single species can survive without the Conclave's trade networks and protection." Susan Baker stepped forward. "We managed for thousands of years before we met you. We'll manage again." The Moore delegate, a floating orb that shifted between purple and red, pulsed rapidly. Its translator converted the color patterns to speech. "What of the directive treaties, the shared defense protocols? The pirate species will target isolated worlds." Lisa Green replied coldly. "All treaties are null and void as of this moment. As for pirates," she smiled thinly, "they would be unwise to test human defenses." The chamber erupted with voices, translators struggling to keep up with the flood of different languages. The Vrex Queen representative's translator finally cut through the noise. "The humans cannot be allowed to possess our shared technology without oversight. The danger is too great." John Miller raised his hand for silence. Surprisingly, the chamber quieted. Every piece of Conclave technology on human worlds was purchased legally or developed with our own innovation. We're taking nothing that isn't ours. High Administrator Sisvek tried one last approach. "Think of your colonies, Ambassador Miller. The Conclave provides protection, emergency aid, communication networks. Without these, your outer settlements will suffer. We've considered everything, Alan White responded, his calm voice a contrast to the tension in the room. Our colonies support this decision, they're prepared. As the human delegation turned to leave, a strange thing happened. The Tellurian representative suddenly stood. The four-eyed alien, whose species had been conclave members for over 3 centuries, spoke clearly. The Tellurian worlds request clarification. Will humanity continue bilateral relations with individual species? John paused. This wasn't part of the script they had planned. He looked at Susan, who gave a slight nod. Earth will consider diplomatic and trade relations with any species on a case-by-case basis, John answered carefully. The Tellurians' 4 eyes blinked in sequence, their version of a nod. Before anyone could react, 3 other representatives rose from their seats almost simultaneously, asking similar questions. The Vega Collective, the Eridani Federation, and surprisingly, the Kolari Empire, all wanted to know if separate agreements could be reached. The conclave leadership looked stunned. High Administrator Sisvek's scales had turned a pale yellow, sign of shock among the Drak. This session is becoming disorderly, Sisvek declared. We will take a brief recess too. There's no need, John interrupted again. We've said everything we came to say. As of this moment, humanity is no longer part of the Galactic Conclave. The human delegation walked toward the exit. As they reached the doors, Ambassador Kizet called out, You will regret this decision. No species can stand alone. John turned back one last time. We're not standing alone. We're standing on our own feet. There's a difference. The doors closed behind them with a final sound. Within hours, the human withdrawal rippled across Conclave. Space. On every station, planet, and ship, the news spread. Humanity had walked out. Human diplomats packed their offices and boarded ships. Human merchants completed their final transactions and departed conclave worlds. Human scientists downloaded their research and left joint facilities. On the military starship Guardian, Captain Emma Ross received the confirmation code. It's done, she told her bridge crew. Set course for the rendezvous point. Standard speed, let them see us leaving. Her first officer asked, Do you think they'll try to stop us? They might consider it, Captain Ross replied. But they won't do it. The Conclave avoids direct confrontation whenever possible. It's their strength and their weakness. In his office on Proxima Station, Ambassador Kizet met with several senior Conclave officials. The mood was grim. We should seize their ships, a Vrex representative insisted. They contain Conclave technology. And start a war? Kizet countered. The humans have been preparing for this. Their ships are armed and ready. Their colonies are defended. They want us to give them an excuse. Then what do we do? Asked a more delegate, its glow dimmed with concern. We wait, Kizet said simply. No species can truly survive alone. Their economy will suffer. Their colonies will struggle. In a few months they'll return, on our terms. As human ships throughout conclave space began their journeys home, they traveled in protective convoys. Military vessels escorted civilian ships. The routes had been planned months in advance, avoiding choke points where they might be vulnerable. On the diplomatic vessel horizon, John Miller watched the stars from the observation deck. Susan Baker joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Phase 2 complete, she said, handing him a cup. No incidents reported so far. All ships are on schedule. John nodded. What about our friends? The Tellurians have formally requested separate trade negotiations. 2 other species have sent private messages indicating they'll do the same within days. And the rest of the plan? Susan smiled. Dr. Howard reports all systems operational. The quantum communication network is ready. The moment we're officially out of conclave space, we activate it. John took a sip of his coffee. Do you think they believe we're desperate? That we'll come crawling back? Probably. They've never understood humans very well. Good, John said quietly. That's exactly what we want them to think. The ship's engines hummed smoothly as it moved away from Proxima Station, carrying humanity toward an independent future. Behind them, the conclave, for the first time in its 1,000-year history, faced a crisis it had never anticipated, a member species that preferred freedom to protection, and the question that no one could answer: would others follow? 6 months passed. The human withdrawal sent shockwaves through galactic society. On Earth, life continued with surprising normality. The streets of New York, Tokyo, and Lagos bustled with activity. Markets remained stocked with goods, power. Grids functioned without interruption. The feared collapse hadn't happened. President Olivia Reed stood at the window of the Oval Office, watching children play in the snow on the White House lawn. Her aide entered with the latest reports. "Madam President, the economic numbers for this quarter show only a 3% decline. That's much better than our worst projections." Reed nodded. "And the colonies?" "All stable. The Alpha Centauri settlement reports their agricultural output is up 15%. They're actually exporting food to our other colonies now." The president smiled slightly. "Has the conclave noticed?" "Our intelligence suggests they're confused. They expected us to be struggling by now." "Good," Reed said. "It's time for the next phase. Contact Dr. Howard. Tell him he has presidential authorization to proceed." On Alpha Centauri's largest colony, New Seattle, crowds gathered in the central plaza. A stage had been set up, with screens visible to everyone in the audience. News drones hovered above, broadcasting the event across human space and beyond. Dr. Frank Howard nervously adjusted his glasses as he waited backstage. He had spent years working in secret on his project. Now he would reveal it to the galaxy. The colony governor introduced him with grand words about human ingenuity and persistence. Then Dr. Howard walked onto the stage, followed by assistants wheeling a device covered by a cloth. "For too long," he began, his voice gaining strength as he spoke, "we've been told that certain technologies are too dangerous for humans, that we need supervision, that we aren't ready." He gestured to the covered device. "This is what the conclave feared most. Not because it's a weapon, it isn't. Not because it's dangerous, it's perfectly safe. They feared it because it makes us truly independent." With a dramatic flourish, he pulled away the cloth, revealing what looked like a simple metal box with a control panel. "This is the quantum communication array. It allows instant communication across any distance, with no detectable signals, no way to monitor or block the transmission." The crowd murmured. Everyone understood the implications. The conclave controlled galactic society partly through its monopoly on faster-than-light communication networks. All messages sent through conclave relays could be monitored. "As of today," Dr. Howard continued, "every human colony world has a functioning QCA. Our ships are being fitted with portable units. Distance is no longer an obstacle. Secrecy is no longer a luxury for the powerful. It belongs to all humanity." He pressed a button on the device. On the screens above, the faces of colony leaders appeared from worlds light years apart, all speaking in real time, with no delay. The crowd erupted in cheers. In his private chamber on Proxima Station, Ambassador Kazet watched the human broadcast with growing alarm. The aquatic Zalari diplomat had spent centuries in conclave service, but never faced a crisis like this. He touched a control, opening a secure channel to High Administrator Susvek. "Did you see the human announcement?" The Drax's scaled face appeared on the screen. "I saw it. Troubling, but not unexpected. Our intelligence suggested they were working on such technology. We should have stopped them years ago," Kazet said. "Now they have true independence." "More concerning is what they might do with it," Susvek replied. "If they share this technology with others." The communication chimed, indicating another incoming call. Susvek's expression changed to one of surprise. "I must go. An urgent matter has arisen." The screen went dark, leaving Kazet with a growing sense of dread. Across human space, ships equipped with the new quantum communication system could coordinate perfectly. Fleet movements became more efficient. Trade routes adjusted instantly to market changes. News traveled between worlds without delay. Within weeks, Human military vessels demonstrated maneuvers that stunned conclave observers. Their smaller fleet now moved as a single unit, making it more effective than the conclave's massive but slower responding armadas. On the bridge of the warship Defender, Captain Emma Ross received orders directly from Earth Command. Orders no conclave spy could intercept. Deploy to the Tau Ceti border, the message read. Show the flag, but take no aggressive action. Make sure they see us, then disappear. Her ship, along with 5 others, appeared at the edge of conclave space, performed precision maneuvers that demonstrated their new capabilities, then vanished before the conclave response fleet arrived. The message was clear: humans couldn't be intimidated anymore. President Reed addressed the citizens of Earth and the colonies via a system-wide broadcast. Billions watched as she stood before the flags of Earth and its colonies. 6 months ago, we made a difficult choice. We chose independence over second-class status. We chose self-reliance over comfortable dependence. Many doubted this path. Many feared we wouldn't survive without the conclave's protection. She paused, a small smile touching her lips. Today, I can tell you with certainty, we have not just survived our independence, we have thrived. Screens behind her showed economic data, scientific achievements, and colonial developments from the past 6 months. And we are not alone in our desire for true equality among the stars. The broadcast switched to a live feed from the Tellurian homeworld. Their prime speaker, a stately 4-eyed figure in ceremonial robes, addressed the galaxy. Today, the Tellurian hegemony formally withdraws from the Galactic Conclave. We have watched humanity prosper in independence, and we choose to follow their example. Before the news could sink in, another broadcast joined. The Vega Collective announced their withdrawal. Minutes later, the Eridani Federation did the same. Within a single hour, 4 major species had left the Conclave. On Proxima Station, the Conclave leadership gathered in emergency session. The holographic projections showed the unthinkable. Nearly 20% of Conclave territory had declared independence in a single day. Ambassador Kazit faced the assembly, his usually calm demeanor shaken. This is a crisis without precedent. If this continues, the Conclave itself may collapse. High Administrator Sisvek hissed in disagreement. We must respond with strength. Sanctions against all departing members. No trade, no communication, no assistance. With respect, Kazit countered, such actions would only push more members away. We must negotiate with the humans. They started this. They're the key to ending it. Negotiate? After they betrayed us? A Vrex representative chittered angrily. They will demand concessions we cannot give. A junior Vrex delegate, younger than the others, stepped forward. This action broke protocol, but no one objected. The situation had moved beyond normal rules. Perhaps, the young Vrex said, we should consider why these species left. Our founding principles promised equality for all members. Have we truly delivered that? The chamber fell silent as the question hung in the air. On Earth, John Miller received the Conclave's request for talks with a small smile. After 6 months of preparation and decades of frustration, the moment had arrived. In the conference room of Earth's diplomatic headquarters, he shared the message with his team. Susan Baker reviewed it carefully, then looked up at her colleagues. They're scared, she said simply. Lisa Green nodded. They should be. Alan White, always the voice of caution, spoke up. Don't underestimate them. They've survived for 1,000 years by being adaptable. They're not done yet. Neither are we, John replied. President Reed has authorized me to negotiate, but only on our original terms, equal status, no compromises. When the Conclave delegation arrived on neutral territory, a space station in independent Tau Ceti space, they found not just humans waiting for them, but representatives from every withdrawn species. The Conclave diplomats, led by Ambassador Kazit himself, paused in surprise at the entrance to the conference room. John Miller rose to greet them. Welcome to the first summit of the Stellar Coalition. We're prepared to discuss new relations with the Conclave as equals, or not at all. Alan White added, The choice is yours. But I should mention that 5 more species have contacted us about joining the coalition in the past week alone. Ambassador Kizet looked at the assembled representatives, species that had been part of the conclave for centuries now united with humanity against it. His voice carried genuine curiosity when he asked, "How did you do this? How did you convince them to follow you?" John shook his head. "We didn't convince anyone. We simply showed them it was possible to stand on their own. The rest was their choice." As the negotiations began, news spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity hadn't just walked out on the conclave. They had created something new. Something better. And the galaxy watched, holding its breath, as the balance of power shifted forever. The end.